Hello everyone, my name is Sky Denton. And if you don't know me yet, I'm someone who speaks loudly about the fact that none of us are completely powerless over ankylosing spondylitis. And today I'm going to share with you my personal story of AS. My AS story is intense, and it's also inspiring. And I'm super happy to share it with those of you who are searching for answers. There was a time in my life when I was desperately looking for anything that could help me. And my story can point you in a very positive direction. I know how it feels to be hurting for answers. My gut used to be twisted and knotted out of fear when nearly every story I came across of people with AS did nothing but sink me deeper into fear and sadness. I believe that every single person with AS can relate to this story so far. And that also means a very good thing, because my story is one that ends in success. I grew up in the mountains of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Now, Jackson is obviously a quite beautiful place, and with this rugged beauty came nearly limitless opportunities for me and my friends to push ourselves in challenging environments. I thrived on discovering what I was capable of as an athlete and an outdoorsman. In this type of environment that can be so unforgiving. Spending time there, that was my passion. This passion and this purpose that I felt so strongly about began to be taken from me when I was 24 years old. I remember vividly when the symptoms started. I was camping with my girlfriend. We were in a tent. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night with a ton of pain in my mid-back, kind of right behind my lungs. And it hurt so bad that I could hardly breathe. And I remember my girlfriend being really concerned when I had to sort of shuffle out of my sleeping bag and get on all fours just to get myself in a position of where I could breathe. Really bizarre and definitely scary at the time. And little did I know, but this would become my new normal. Within a year of developing these symptoms and poor sleeping habits because of them, I was forced to stop pursuing my favorite activities because of constant pain. By the second year, I had to quit my job as an adventure guide because of shooting sciatic pain and chronic pain in my hips as well. It got so debilitating that I was no longer able to safely look after clients anymore. And I thought it was bad then. By the third year, I quite simply started to become paralyzed in pain. Now, I just dealt with this mysterious pain the best I could, thinking it would all go away, or something. But there's one event that ultimately led me to fully realizing that something was not okay. I woke up one morning, totally immobilized, and at this point my neck was so painful. And to do things like even bend over forward or side to side, I literally had to hold my head like this or like this because the tension of the weight on my neck was just too much. But this specific morning was really bad. And while lying in bed getting ready to get up, I remember having to emotionally gather myself and prepare myself for the tremendous pain I was going to have to put myself through, literally just to sit up on my bed. I eventually went for it and almost got myself up, but not quite. I collapsed back onto the bed, but this time onto my face, and my face right in my pillow. I immediately found myself in a scary position, one that I never thought or imagined I'd ever be in. You see, I now had to gather the strength to deal with the pain of what it would take me to move my neck from this position to this position or that position to breathe, to get myself out of that pillow. And I remember so clearly thinking about this and just hardly believing this was even happening to me. Now, I knew I was not going to lay there and suffocate, for sure. I knew I could move if I really needed to, when I really needed to. And I did. I got myself out of that situation. But at that point, I realized something really interesting. And it was very scary. I realized that this pain, whatever it was, had now gotten to the point where it had actually just threatened my life to an extent, or at least had me thinking about that. And that was it. Emotionally, I'd lost it. I hit my breaking point. And I've always been a very poised and composed person, but I was taken over at this point by anger and fear. And I remember walking outside into the forest where I was living and just thrashing branches and picking up sticks and hitting trees and stumps. And the emotions at that point overrode the pain, and I just let myself go. Exhausted and sobbing, I remember dropping down to my knees in the snow. And then I walked home and I called my mom, and I very seriously told her, which is something I had never told anyone before, but that something was seriously wrong. I began seeing a lot of different doctors to finally get a diagnosis. And I remember literally being laughed at out of one specific spinal clinic. They said my spine was fine, that nothing was broken, that the muscles were all intact. And they told me to go home and exercise. And I was so angry at this point because it became so obvious that no one knew what was going on and that no one could get even close to understanding how badly I hurt, how bad my pain was all the time. And once my pain was finally diagnosed and given the name Ankylosing Spondylitis, I was horrified and not surprised. You see, I had done enough homework, of my own homework, to pretty much know that that's what I had. But having a medical doctor and blood tests confirm HLA-B27 was tragic. And I soon made sacrifices, and my family made sacrifices, and we traveled pretty long distances to go and find some of the best doctors we could. And although they were super helpful in many ways, I still didn't receive the answers that were acceptable to me. And the day after my diagnosis, I remember just poring over the internet, looking for any story of success, of healing, of remission, of anything that gave me hope. And I got my family on board, and they helped as well. And we learned as much about that disease as we possibly could to do whatever we could to help ease my pain and get me on the way, get me on the path to a better life. We spent countless hours combing the internet, and I looked up quite a few different types of doctors: kinesiologists, dietitians, naturopaths, homeopaths, Ayurvedic. Even a local biochemist who had his own supplement line. I was determined to do anything I could. By the 4th year, I was consistently losing the ability to walk and to even drive a car. The disease had impacted my entire spine, from my low back all the way up to my head, headaches and everything. My ribs, both my feet, my ankles, my left knee, and it was reaching into other parts of my body as well. I had painful skin, psoriasis type of issues on every single one of my fingers, on my head and on my face, and along with that came digestive problems. And I imagine this all will sound pretty familiar to some of you now. So let's keep going. All but my closest family relationships fell away. The people I used to spend time with, my good friends, my high school friends, were out being active. They were climbing in mountains. They were kayaking whitewater. They were backpacking in cool places. And there I was, 27 years old, and I couldn't even make it to the bathroom without help. I was extremely fearful, of course, financially, and what my working future would look like. And the whole idea of doing the sports that I once thrived on doing completely fell away. And I found myself literally just in survival mode. And there I was, and there I remained, locked in a body filled with more endless physical pain than many people will ever experience. Except maybe you. Now we're going to mix it up. Now we're going to start moving in a positive direction. Despite my failing body and the constant fear I felt, deep down inside, I had another feeling. Right in my gut. And it's really hard to explain, but I just had this feeling that I would find something that would work if I kept looking. There just had to be someone somewhere in the world that knew something that would help me. You see, I simply refused to accept the two extremes of living in this hell. And that was continuing to live like this or ending my own life. Neither of those were acceptable. Neither of those were options. So I was determined to do anything possible. And although there were many times I felt like giving up, that was also way too scary. Because where would I be if I gave up? During a particularly bad flare-up, and a very memorable one, I remember poring over the internet. And this day I came across an author named Peter Winslow. And his message of support and success was exactly what I had been desperately looking for years. I started off by buying this book. It's called Heal for Real, written by Peter Winslow. You can see all the highlights. Now I'll tell you right now that this book, everyone involved with it, Peter Winslow, the publishers, no one is sponsoring this video or promoting it in any way. I'm sharing this with you, friend to friend, because it helped me. This book gave me the direction and optimism that I needed at a time in my life when I didn't have much. And it set me on a path, and I began learning more and more from Peter. And I quickly began to understand health and wellness in a whole new way. And I began feeling better. My body began to respond, and my physical symptoms began to improve. I stayed the track, and I kept learning. And the need for my medications began to fall away, began to lessen little bit by little bit. Eating a severely limiting and starch-free diet no longer served me, and I began to feel better and eat better. In time, I was back. I was me again. I was nearly pain-free, and once again, I could do the things that I love to do. I could go hiking. I could get on a skateboard or a mountain bike. With proper guidance and through a proven method of coaching, I had defeated the pain and suffering from AS. I know how it works, and I know why it works. I'm a few years out of this experience now, and I've continuously studied it. I've studied the science of it and the logic of it in order to bring it to people like you. It worked so well for me, and it's working for a lot of other people. We're having great success. That is my story. Now let's sink this in a little bit and bring it home to you. Your situation right now is very unique. Do you realize how important my story is for you and the message of the AS Victors and Ralph Fitness and AS Freedom and our whole group of coaches and our whole team? There's so much you can learn, and there's so much potential for you to have less pain in your life. It's been amazing and inspiring to watch other people do what I did. And I'm grateful that I was able to become a success so that I can teach people like you, because it's tremendously rewarding. In conclusion, as I tell people nearly every single day, this is not some miraculous achievement of healing that is only available to a select group of people or something. Not at all. This is available to you, and it can actually be a lot simpler than you'd think. It requires a more complete understanding of health, and that's a good thing, because that's what leads to AS freedom. So thank you for listening. I trust that you can relate at least some to this story, and I hope that I can give you some inspiration today. My story is not the only one like this, and I invite you and encourage you to look at my website to learn more. My name is Sky Denton, and I'm the founder and head coach at asfreedom.com. Thank you for watching. Better days ahead, and I'll see you in the next video.